Hey everyone,
Hello,
welcome to a new episode of the Surprisingly Good podcast. I'm Victor.
and I'm Jasmine.
So today we're going to talk about anime. Why anime though, Jasmine? Tell us.
um, do you want to start by just talking about like animes we've seen most recently that kind of left an impression on both of us?
Sure, why not? You go ahead. You're a bigger anime fan than I am, actually.
Okay, so recently I saw an anime called Jujutsu Kaisen. Have you heard of that one?
My son loves that.
Oh, he likes it, but you've never watched it.
I've seen a few episodes when he's watching it on TV.
Okay, so you kind of know the plot, like the loosely.
Not at all, but you go ahead and spoil it for me.
Okay, you're fine with it? Sure.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I think the really interesting thing about Jujutsu Kaisen is, well, it's a newer anime. And so it's a shonen anime, which means, it's kind of along the same vein as like Naruto, Dragon Ball, and,
hmm
Chainsaw Man, all of that. But then, so the whole theme, like the whole goal of the main character is to not die alone.
Oh,
And I feel like that's kind of it has all the elements of shonen manga, but it sounds like such a simple goal. It sounds like such a straightforward goal, but then when you actually put it into practice, it's a lot harder because people like die in that anime, and you have falling out with friends, or maybe your friend turns into a bad guy, and I think it's one of the only shonen anime that has themes that are very applicable to real life.
I see.
Yeah.
So, for our viewers out there, or for our listeners out there who don't understand what shonen is, can you tell us what shonen manga or shonen anime is?
Yeah, I think ooh, I guess it's a type of anime or manga that's kind of aimed more at teenagers, and there's usually a lot of action, there's a lot of fan service, there's a lot of fantasy and supernatural elements in it, but usually like the core theme of shonen anime and manga, it's usually kind of something along the lines of like saving the world, or like becoming the best soccer player, becoming the best basketball player in the world. So it's kind of like young man big dreams, to put it really simply. But that's kind of the charm of Jujutsu Kaisen, I guess, is you expect this main character to have big dreams, to want to save the world, to want to you know do everything that a 16-year-old would ever dream of. But then his goal is just something so simple. Like there's something really I think deep about it.
Yeah, I heard that shonen anime or manga is the highest rated manga in Japan, and there must be a reason for that, right?
Yeah, I think people are very jaded in Japan. So I
Interesting.
think I think shonen anime slash manga, they kind of you know it showcases like the vitalities of youth, the I guess like the dreams of like what could be or what could have been. But and I think this is where Jujutsu Kaisen's a little bit different. The main character is actually really jaded himself. Like, he's happy kind of with the bare minimum. And, even his goals, like it's compared to like saving the universe or becoming the strongest person in the world. Like it's a comparatively, I guess, small goal that everyday people can probably try to accomplish.
It's interesting how even shonen manga or anime has evolved with the times. Uh, as you mentioned, Jujutsu Kaisen sounds like the main protagonist is a bit more jaded, more akin to people in 2026. Not like
Yeah.
the shonen protagonists of the 90s who are, really just hopeful and looking towards a bright future. He sounds, even for One Punch Man, for example, the main character, Saitama, the appeal lies in that he's just a guy who's trying to be a hero for fun, right? So he's voiced and animated to come across as a bit more just going about his business, trying to cook, hot pot, trying to get deals at supermarkets. Seems more relatable to most people in 2026. It's interesting how it's evolved, right?
Yeah, I watched that one. That one's a really good one. I think there's a lot of similarity between Saitama and the main character in Jutsu. And I think it probably has to do with like the economic downturn and how like a lot of young people now are struggling
You're
financially.
right. Yeah, interesting viewpoint. Yes, exactly. Good observation.
And like even in the West as well, like, with the whole like inflation going on, political instability, embargo, I feel like the kind of the overly hopeful protagonist is just no longer as appealing to the modern generation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember some of the shonen manga that I used to read growing up for football, for boxing, even fantasy stuff like Dragon Ball. All the protagonists, they have a good core and they always strive for a brighter future, trying to pull their teammates along and trying to do what's good in the face of overwhelming evil or odds. It's still true today for modern shonen, but I think the starting point of the protagonist is a little different. The starting point is always a protagonist who is just like you and me, trying to
Hmm.
get by, and then was placed in an extraordinary situation, and now they suddenly have to rise above that humdrum of everyday life, right? And then but after the battle they kind of go back to being humdrum again.
Because I'm guessing like you've watched more stuff like Dragon Ball or like Hajime no Ippo,
Oh yeah, for
kind of
sure.
like Musashi no Ken. Yeah, I haven't watched or Inuyasha. I watched some of it, so I feel like I'm kind of like straddling between generations where I've watched the older stuff, but I'm also keeping up with the newer stuff. And another interesting difference I notice is how how masculinity is prescribed to the characters. Like I think in the older animes and manga, there's a very like specific image of what a main character should be. Like he should be brave, like he's like macho, he's buff, like he's always like the person with like the most hope, with the most like perseverance. Whereas I find in the newer anime you actually get a lot of stronger female characters and weaker male characters, so
Oh,
you
interesting.
know
Yes, you're right.
probably a reflection of society as well.
That's right. That's right. Even talking about older animes, I mean, I even reached that generation where they were still reading Doraemon. That's talk about an old one, right? Or
Yeah.
even Mazinger Z, Voltus 5, Dymos, those like really stuff from the late 70s going on to the 80s.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was there for that. Even though I was born in the tail end of 1979, but a lot of these things from the 70s lingered on and were still around when I was growing up and I was reading them. And you're right in saying that the protagonists, how masculinity was prescribed to them, it really is very different from how it is nowadays. I think it influenced me in more ways than I can actually describe. I think
Mm.
it's not talked about enough how a whole generation of people growing up watching certain types of anime would have their values in life or some of the things that they hold important to them. Um, for example, like one of my Japanese colleagues, he really thinks that Slam Dunk is like the Bible of his generation.
It's a good one.
Right? Yeah.
Do you have a favorite anime slash manga or something that just really, really shaped your whole worldview?
Oh my God, there's so many. But if I have to mention one that I keep going back to, It's Ranma one half.
Oh, I've heard of that one, but I haven't watched that one yet. I think they came out with a new anime for that one recently, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. They did a remake and just updated the animation. But interestingly, they got all the old voice actors to come back and voice the characters again.
Ooh, what about it kind of shaped you? Like, what part of the theme or the characters do you think shaped you?
Yeah, I think the fact that they asked all these or the original voice actors to come back speaks volumes to why this manga appeals to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beloved that it would feel off, or it just wouldn't be the same without the same voices that you're so used to hearing when you're watching
Right.
the cartoon, right? And for myself, I don't know. I just feel like it came from a time where, even though there are a lot of dark stuff that was in parallel with it, because there's a lot of dark materials back in the 80s, right? For
Mm-hmm.
example, just some manga about demons and devils lurking the city and all this
Yeah.
dystopian future. I mean, Akira, for example,
Oh, that's a good one.
right? That's such a landmark. Yeah. So, but in parallel to all that, you have this wacky group of people who, I mean, the original idea for this is so innovative too. Like you have people turning into animals when poured with water, and then they will turn
Hmm.
back again if you pour them with hot water. And then you have love triangles. You have parents who are trying to marry off their children. You've got martial arts. You've
Hmm.
got all kinds of crazy shenanigans. You've got cooking. You've got perverts who are trying to steal women's underwear. It's just like such a crazy circus and all rolled into one. And I just thought that the premise was so original, so entertaining. It didn't take itself too seriously. And even, fast forward to today, I find myself reaching to my, bookcase and grabbing the old copies and reading them again. And when the anime was renewed, a new version came out on Netflix. I was actually very happy. I'm looking forward to it. I watch it all the time.
Ooh, do you have a favorite character or a character that you kind of see yourself in?
Interestingly enough, it's Ranma. He turns into a
The main
woman when
character?
poured with when poured with cold water, and turns back into a guy when he's poured with hot water. I relate to him because I feel that there's that dichotomy in all of us, right? There are
Yeah.
things about you that you feel more masculine about, and there are things about you feel more feminine about. Or there are
Yeah.
things that you're better at, and surprisingly, it's a very feminine aspect, even if you're a boy,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, for a woman, there's stuff that you're surprisingly good at, like the main protagonist, the girl protagonist in the show, Akane. She's very good at martial arts, and she's a bit of a
Hmm.
tomboy. So I thought that was refreshing. Yeah.
It's kind of cool how it's I can see this anime being labeled as pro LGBTQ plus like right now, but then like back in the day, I don't even think they even had that in mind.
It was advanced for his time, isn't
It was
it?
really advanced. Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm just looking at the overview and the summary right now. Yeah, it seems like gender exploration and, trans narrative is like a big part of the story as well. So yeah, that's really interesting. Have you ever, I guess, like, because like you mentioned the whole like masculine and feminine, like, has there ever been a time in your life where you really struggled to balance the two, or where you felt like maybe your masculinity is being questioned or,
I
being
never had a
attacked?
problem with that, but I feel that I can tap into the feminine side when I need to. For example, if I have to decorate
Oh,
my house, if I have to
right,
buy furniture, if I have to do arrangements, you know what I
right.
mean? That part, if you tap into the feminine side of yourself, the results usually come out a lot better.
Interesting. I feel like a lot
Right.
of men have trouble doing that. Like they find it quote unquote maybe too feminine or too gay. Do you think watching this anime helped you become more comfortable with that side of you by any chance?
I think you were right in saying that these labels are pretty modern labels. When they created this anime back in the day, I don't think they even thought about all these things.
Yeah,
Maybe subconsciously they did, but it's presented in such a wacky manner that you don't take it or yourself too seriously. But I
right.
think subconsciously it does affect you. For me, I think it kind of tells a viewer that it's okay. Everybody's kind of crazy. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's kind of insane or weird in their own ways, and it's okay to be like that. You know,
Yeah. That sounds like a good one. That which reminds me of another anime. I don't know if you've watched it. It's called Beastars.
Meat stars. Tell us about it. Tell us about it, Jasmine. What is it?
So, because we're going along the whole like I guess like gender representation in anime and manga, but it's a anime that's basically a social commentary on the dynamics between men and women. And it's
Ooh,
kind of how I
okay.
see it. So, it was written by a woman, and then in this world, um, basically, everybody in society is an animal. So, like maybe you're like a deer, and then I'm a rabbit. So, like, they talk and act like human beings, but then they have to kind of integrate carnivores and herbivores in the same society, and it causes a lot of problems because if you're working with a wolf, then it might want to eat you.
Oh, interesting. It's sort of a parallel or a commentary on the different types of people we have in society, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of commentary on class and a lot of commentary on gender, but there's a lot of nuance to it in the sense that like there's a male wolf that wants to eat a female rabbit. So, you can interpret that in a lot of ways. But once you get deeper into the story, like you find out the rabbit kind of wants to be eaten. Like she has this weird, um, I guess,
Almost like a
fetish.
fetish,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess I see that as like a commentary maybe on, um, say like rape culture, where we have this really black and white view of rape culture, but then like when you really get into it, it's kind of like a power play of sorts. So
Oh,
that
that's
was a
so interesting.
really,
I think that speaks to how well written and how subtle some works are in animation that people don't seem to understand immediately. A lot of people just dismiss these as, oh, these are cartoons or
yeah.
these are for kids, right? But there's so much good writing involved that if you pick up on the nuances, there's actually being said in between the lines. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, that one was insane. And then, I actually personally learned a lot from that anime because in that anime, carnivores are kind of, there's a lot of prejudice against them. Like if a rabbit and a wolf, is together and the rabbit gets eaten, then, the wolf is always a bad guy. But then if you get to know the wolf story, they basically kind of humanize, like instead of seeing people as perpetrators and victims, they kind of humanize both sides and show that like humans are more gray, especially when it comes to interpersonal
Yeah, for
relationships.
sure. I think what it's saying is that people are more nuanced than what they appear to be on the surface. So on that level, though, so I wanted to ask you, Jasmine, what's your favorite anime or manga? Tell us about it.
Ooh, right now I think, have you heard of Chainsaw Man?
Yes, I have, but I haven't seen a single episode.
Oh,
So
that
why
one is
why do you
so
like it? What
good.
do you love about it?
I think it's basically an anime that I think, so, I'm really into philosophy as well. And then my
Hmm.
favorite, I guess brand of philosophy is called Epicureanism. And, it's kind of a mix between nihilism and hedonism, where it's kind of like the world has no meaning, so you kind of want to maximize pleasure, but not just every kind of pleasure. Like you want to maximize pleasure in the long term. So like if you go drinking, it's very pleasurable, but you'll have a hangover for 3 days. So that's not really maximizing pleasure. And I think Chainsaw Man kind of illustrates that philosophy really well. Like the main character is also very, very jaded. He's extremely poor. He's like, he's basically like a blue collar worker, in I guess modern terms. And so he gets happy by the small things in life, like toast with butter. Like he finds that to be like the highlight of his day. And then it really kind of
Interesting.
like,
Okay.
yeah, and then so I feel like what I like about that anime is like when you watch it, you realize like a lot of pain and suffering that you have in everyday life it's kind of like it's all in your head. And if you don't learn to appreciate the small things, you're just kind of chasing bigger stuff. You're chasing bigger dreams. You're chasing more money, like a more beautiful girlfriend or boyfriend. And then, like, that's what keeps people on the hedonic treadmill. But then the main character kind of breaks past that. He's like, if I can have a meal and a roof over my head, like, I'm basically happy.
Wow, you got all of that from watching Chainsaw Man.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that one was very I feel like there's a lot of, oh, and also the cinematography of that anime is really interesting. It's shot like a movie, kind
Mm.
of. Like it's not shot like a normal anime, so even in terms of like the artistry, the action scene, like the character psychology, I find that it to be a very layered anime.
Right, right. Speaking of cinematography and shots, I heard that more and more anime are going back into hand-drawn frames now because for a while
Ooh.
it was all CGI, right? And there was
Yeah.
a backlash against that because from a production point of view, it's easier for the studio to crank out episodes for the dear viewer. On the other
Yeah.
hand, though, they kind of lost something like the human touch when they started using computers alone. And right now, I think it's like there's a movement where more and more hand-drawn frames are coming back into the fold, and I find that amazing. And going back to the first thing we talked about in this episode, Jujutsu Kaisen, the little that I've seen with my son, those were great fight scenes, shot per shot, and the
Yeah.
best parts were always hand drawn. You get that visceral feel when it's hand drawn instead of being just generated by a computer.
Yeah, but I heard because Jujutsu Kaisen, both Jujutsu and Chainsaw Man are made by the studio Mappa, and they're known for like really high quality anime, but apparently they like abuse their animators. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
that's
like give
also
or
well known in
take.
the
Yeah.
industry, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's give or take. Like I love the hand drawn stuff, but apparently they really put them through the ringer to get those scenes.
Oh, for sure. Miyazaki's famous for really just being a slave driver to his artists. Every time they come out with a new movie, I think most of them lose a couple of years of their life.
Yeah, apparently he's like not that like pleasant of a person
Oh
to
no,
work
yeah, he's
with.
not easy to work with. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But like his animes are always so like,
They're
pleasant
beautiful,
and they're
right?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like full of hope, but I don't know, are you able to separate the art and the artist?
I think that sort of speaks to anything good in life needs a bit of suffering. Even the best music. If the artist didn't go through any type of real suffering in life, they wouldn't be able to
Hmm.
produce such beautiful melodies, right?
Right. But I guess
Also,
say,
speaking of studio, sorry to interrupt you. So, speaking of studios, Studio Gainax, the ones who produce Evangelion, I heard they closed
oh,
permanently.
oh,
Ooh.
why?
I don't know. That's such a watershed, animation for people growing up in my generation too. But maybe the studio ran out of money. There are all kinds of realities facing studios. What we see is the final product, but I think
Hmm.
the production process is just wrought with problems and challenges. Either financially or schedule wise, or people leaving, people getting sick, or they finish the product, but maybe whatever promotional company didn't have enough money to promote the work properly, and it ended up not being a financial success, and that affects the next project of that studio. It's all kinds of stuff.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big fan of the movie remakes.
Yeah, I like the
Uh,
original more.
I
Yes.
like the original way more. Is it just me?
No, same for me. I think it sort of became a little bit. I think it became like a bit of a parody of itself in the remakes.
Yeah,
The original one was really serious in tone. You had to rewatch it several times to really
yeah.
understand what was going on. The story was deep, very philosophical, gets very dark in a lot of turns. And I think the remake sort of made it palatable to more people. Uh,
Yeah.
Fans like ourselves, it
Uh-huh.
kind of lost some of its grittiness, didn't it?
And I feel like in the original work, there was a sort of coherency, whereas I feel like for the movies, it felt a little bit more like a circus show.
But I think that's all. animation or manga if it lives long enough. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
reading Dragon Ball, and when it finished in the Frieza arc, I thought it was a very beautiful ending, and it should have ended right there.
Hmm.
But what I read online is that obviously when a studio or a publishing house knows that, oh, this series is making the studio a lot of money, they will
Yeah.
pressure the artist to keep coming up with new material, even though the artist
Yeah.
wanted to end the series already, like he was done with it, right? And then even if the artist doesn't want to continue it anymore, they would have other people come in and just, and that's what happened to Naruto, I heard, right? When they came out with the next season, which was what, his son,
Yeah.
Boruto? It's
Yeah.
like, it wasn't as good anymore. Yeah.
Did you watch Naruto?
Again, sparsely. Every time my son's watching something, I would sit down with him and watch a couple of episodes with him.
Oh, I think it's one of the most like I actually think so Chainsaw Man is my most recent favorite, but I think Naruto was the most had the most profound effect on me personally because I was born in that
Wow.
generation.
Really? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're from that generation. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, I was like right smack in the middle. But yeah, again, the problem with Naruto is like even before it ended, like there was two parts to it. I feel like even when you got like halfway through the second part, it just became like a circus show a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um yeah, and I think that's the tragedy of anime. So like a
For
lot of
sure.
people were
Yeah.
like complaining about the ending of Evangelion, but I think the original ending was like I was fine with it. I really liked it. The one where
Yeah,
they were like
I
clapping
think
their hands.
they originally, a lot of the original stuff, they leave you confounded and it's sort of open ended, and I think that's a good thing. It makes you ask questions, right? And then it leaves room for the imagination to think about what would have happened or what could have happened after that. A lot of the newer stuff, I think the tragedy there is that it almost feels like they're dragging on episodes just for the sake of producing more episodes. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they need to make money. They need to keep viewership high, so they would just keep cranking out episodes for the sake of doing it. And do a lot of flashbacks, and they do
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
little tricks here and there to keep the show going. And then you would
Yeah.
have like what, 7, 8 seasons with a couple of hundred episodes, and like,
Yeah.
wow, that's way too much.
Yeah, and like alternate timelines and um but I was just curious, what was your interpretation on the original Evangelion ending? Because I actually didn't find it to be that open-ended.
Oh. For me, it was basically uh, it was a mix of mythology with modern aspirations
Yeah.
and modern values. So
Yeah.
it's like a clash between, oh, so you have all these supernatural forces acting upon this planet, and therefore
Yeah.
it shaped humanity to be the way it is today. But
Right.
because modern people have their own aspirations, and what they bring to the table sort of wants to change the narrative from what happened all those millennia ago, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, the ending sort of speaks to no matter what you do, there will always be overwhelming forces that will just annihilate everything, even if you have aspirations. But
Right.
that won't stop the human from trying, even if
Yeah.
it means it's the end of their existence. That's
Yeah.
what I got from it. Yeah.
Cool. No,
Yeah. Hey,
everybody.
speaking of dark stuff, Jasmine, I remember, because, I mean, speaking of anime, right? It's such a treasure trove of stuff. Even just barely begun to scratch the surface. There's so much material over the past 40 years. There's this one that influenced me a lot, and it's a very obscure one, especially for people from your generation who are younger. In Chinese, it's called 孔雀王. Have you heard of that one?
No, I have
Oh,
not. No.
it is so dark.
孔雀王.
it's
Is it Japanese?
It's Japanese, so just a basic premise is that it's also based in mythology. So this guy was reincarnated, and he was taken under the wing of like a Shinto priest,
Huh.
and he was trained to be a demon hunter, basically to catch demons. But little does the viewer know that You could say like a king among demons. You know, this is a
Yeah.
common theme running through a lot of the Japanese shonen stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I loved it because it was so gritty and dark. You know, they would have episodes where it was so imaginative. They would have demons who would hide in musical instruments, you know, and
Darn.
for some reason, this pop star that you see on TV rose to such fame and stardom because this person had this enchanted, or should I say, cursed object, helping helping that star project its power,
Hmm.
right? And then Kong Wang, you know, the protagonist has to come in and try to exorcise a demon from said pop star. You know, it's so imaginative. I find it fascinating, and there's a lot of you know, R-rated, you know, 18 kind of stuff in
Gore.
there. Yeah, a lot of gore, a lot of nudity, but I think it helped shape me in the sense that it made it non-taboo. Like, yeah, I mean, this is society. You know, there are darker aspects of it, and it's not really such a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like I appreciate how there's always the mandatory onsen scene in every anime.
Yeah.
To sort of like, you know, bring everything into a more lighthearted tone again after a dark dive into, you know, demon stuff. You know, that's always fun.
I might read this after I get off the call because I'm quite into dark and gritty stuff. I think the darkest and grittiest anime that pops up in my mind, it's called Berserk. I'm not sure
Oh
if
my
you've heard of
god,
that
yes,
one.
I'm a
That one
fan.
was
Oh
really,
yeah.
really good. Too bad the author died. I think
Yeah, but he's a
they probably
legend because he passed. You know what I mean?
he
He's
probably
a
worked too
legend.
hard.
That's what it does. I think a lot of manga artists die young. It kills them.
I think he worked particularly hard because when you look at the panels and just the details he put into it, I'm like,
And he
and
has
he
to
was
produce
really
an entire
young.
series, right? And I can imagine just drawing one panel would take him like 2 weeks.
I think he was only like 30 something when he passed. Just like
Kentaro Miura.
he just like dropped dead.
Yeah, I hear a lot of artists go through the same thing because they go through such grueling schedules, and it's very unforgiving industry that they're in, right? If you make it, you make it, but a lot of them they work their asses off and never go anywhere, and then they just die in obscurity.
But yeah, oh sorry, he was 54, but still he was really young.
And that's
Um
young.
but yeah, but I really like Berserk because I feel like it was such a nice I saw the theme as like male rage and like how the main character dealt with his rage, which had roots in, trauma. So I think it's a really interesting anime to look through the lens of kind of like the modern red pill movement.
Yeah, the eclipse scene is still one of the most traumatic scenes from all of anime. You know, where all his companions get eaten up,
Yeah.
and oh my god, and his girlfriend gets raped in front of him by his best friend.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's dark stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I
never
think
comfortable to watch.
I think it's like that is like every dude's kind of
Worst
worst
nightmare, right?
nightmare. I think as a
Yeah.
woman, I kind of have a different view on it, but it's kind of like that one scene, like that 10 minutes of that manga slash anime that kind of puts this kind of like uncontrollable rage and guts that kind of motivates him throughout the whole series. And, I think rage is a great motivator, but, he also like does a lot of wrong to the people around him because he's so angry all the
Yeah,
time.
nobody's perfect, right? You make a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes on the road to, you know, salvation, right?
Yeah, and then, and it kind of begs the question, okay, if that didn't happen, if he didn't have that rage, like what kind of person would he be like? How do you heal from that? Like he's just so
And that's something
angry.
we should discuss in the next episode.
Yeah, we
We're
only
running out
have
of
we
time.
only have 5 minutes, so I think it's a good part to wrap up. I think we can make like a whole series out of this. There's so many
Yeah,
more animes that we need to
let's tie it
discuss.
all up together for today, though. So we've
Sweet.
barely begun to scratch the surface. We've gone through a little bit of a few genres so far. What can you impart the dear listener with some words of wisdom that you might want to share?
Ooh, watch Chainsaw Man.
Like
It's
Chainsaw
very
Man.
good. Watch Chainsaw Man.
Okay. Um, Me, I have really no comments except that I know that there are several websites where you can read manga for free, especially that they've been transcribed to English. So for the non-Japanese reader or listener, you can always tap into those and check out some of the stuff that you want to see. So I think I generally view that as a good thing.
Sweet. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that right now after this, actually.
Okay, well, so that wraps up our episode for today. We'll come back and discuss more anime stuff in the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you, Vic.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Bye.
Baboosh.